Hey y'all, I'm Ryan, and over the past year and a half, I have been playing the Line6 HX Stomp XL exclusively for live gigs, for my practices, and for making these videos here on YouTube. Now, the Line6 is pretty intuitive, but if you're coming from the traditional amp, like a tube amp or even a solid state amp, the Line6 HX Stomp and the HX Stomp XL can be a little overwhelming, especially if you've never really played around with amp modelers. So in today's video, I'm going to break down the Line6 HX Stomp XL and subsequently the HX Stomp as well, so you can cut through the noise and get through the tones that you are hearing in your head, because I gigged this last Saturday and it was the perfect guitar tone I think I've ever had in my life. So I want to help you get to where you can look back and say, yes, I finally achieved tonal nirvana. So let's get into it. So before we get into everything, let's go over the basics. You have your 6 main buttons right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With the XL, you also have this, which is mode, and it can be edit and edit. And then your tap tempo, and you can also edit this as well. You can edit these as well. Here are your little parameters. This is for fine tweaking things, like if you're thinking of like a traditional amp, you can be like, all right, this is bass, middle, or treb. Tons of other things as well, but just think of it that way. And then here is your moving presets there. So you can see as I'm on Super Lead 8C preset, and now I'm on 8D, which is MMTO, which is my band, Morgan and the Missed Opportunity. If you want to see your rig, right here, you have to hit the home button, hit view, and it goes in between either your preset mode or your stomp mode and your layout mode. So you can see here, I have all my different effects. I have overdrive, filter, my amp, chorus, delay, reverb, out. And then if I want to go back to looking at the effects, I just hit that home button there. Now on the opposite side of the top wheel, we have the action button. Now the action button, when you press it, if you're hovering over select the amp, you hit action, and you can either copy or paste from this view. We don't want to do either one of those things. But good to know if you were trying to copy and paste an amp block, whether it's before or amp after, or an effects before or after the amp, or to a different preset. So when you're in stomp mode, you press action, nothing happens. The HX Stomp is currently in stomp box mode, meaning that all these different pedals are different effects. I have my chorus here, and notice that they light up when they are activated, and they kind of have a dull light, so you kind of know which one, and they correspond right here. So chorus, you got delay, reverb is usually on, envelope filter, overdrive, and this one we can get to a little bit later, but this is scene 2, and that's what I like to call my solo boost. And we'll touch on that in a little bit later, because you can add multiple pedals and multiple effects to one switch. So now if you want to look at preset mode, say you have like a clean Fender tone, and then you also want to go to like a Vox tone, but it's on a different preset, you want to hit mode, and you can see the different banks. You have bank up, and you have bank down. You can tell I'm on D right here, 8D. But let's say I want to go to crunchy, which is crunchy like a bag of Snyder's pretzels. I go ahead and hit B, and then if I wanted to see what that preset looks like, go ahead and hit mode again, and there you go. You got chorus, envelope filter, simple delay, fuzz, Timmy, and Tim. It's really cool. It's really intuitive, fairly simple, but you need to get used to hitting this mode button when you want to go in between stomp box mode and preset mode. By default, this last button here, whether it's the HX Stomp or HX Stomp XL, this is going to be your tap tempo. Now, what's really cool is it flashes. And it flashes to the BPM that you're tapping. Now, if you want to tune your guitar, which is very important, what you're going to do is take that tap tempo, hold it down, and now you have a tuner. And if I grab the end lead here, I don't have a guitar plugged in, you can see that I'm currently B flat. Press it again, goes back to normal mode. Now if you have the HX Stomp, the normal one, the 3-button one, you're going to have button 1, button 2, which is going to be either your stomps, your snapshots, or your presets, and then this last one is going to be your tap tempo and tuner by default. You can change that parameter. You can change all these parameters in the menu section. So let's go ahead and do that. First thing you want to do is you can go hit home if you want. Just you can easily select the effects. And what you want to do is to assign the foot switches. Let's hover over and say this is simple delay. We're currently there. So let's turn it off by pressing this middle button, the wheel. And then in order to select where this goes, which foot switch is controlled by, you want to hit page left and page right at the same time. And from here, you have bypass assign, controller assign, and command center. So you want to go bypass assign. Go ahead and click those wheels. All these wheels are also buttons that you can push in as well. So currently you can see that simple delay is currently typed as in latching, meaning that when it's pressed, it's going to hold there. It's not going to go anywhere. So you tap it on, you're going to have delay on it until you tap it again. But you can also switch it to momentary. So that's how you set foot switches. Let's talk about building presets, because when you think about amp modelers, you're thinking of all the different amps and cabinets and effects that you probably never have enough money to ever buy, because this unit has over like 75 amp modelers and it's constantly being added to that list. Recently they added some awesome Dumble amps, so let's go ahead and start pre-building a preset and I'll show you how to do it. So you can see right here we have new presets here. I'm just going to go ahead and hit A. So we have preset 27A, which is a new preset. What you want to do is go ahead and hit home, and you have the layout, and as you can tell, there is absolutely nothing on it. What I like to first do is grab an amp. So you can see this switches the place on the timeline. This right here on the far left is your input. All the way on the right is your output, and luckily it says that, right? So quickly, you don't probably want to do a whole lot here, but you can pan it. You can either make it go left, you can make it go right. I personally, and I imagine you probably will too, I keep it dead center. And as far as output levels, you can also, boost it, lower it. For the most part, I leave that pretty simple and basic and at center and 0 and then build my presets around that. And then if you want to look at the intro as well, you have a gate, like a noise gate, so you can even turn it off or on. When it's on, you have a threshold of negative 28 decibels, so anything under negative 28 decibels instantly cut off. Then you also have a decay, which essentially means that how far that cutoff, how quickly that cutoff goes. So I typically choose my amps first. So what I do is get kind of in the middle, usually right there. I'm going to hit the bottom button. And then I have this category here. So distortion, dynamics, EQ, all my different effects. What I want to do now is go into amp and cab, or amp and preamp and then cab. For basics here, I'm just going to do amp and cab just for simplicity's sake here. So then I'm going to hit enter into the bottom wheel. Guitar channels, I'm going to choose guitar. You can choose whatever you want. And then you can see all the different amps here. And they all have fun names. I saw one that I want to do. Let's do a matchstick channel 1. Matchstick, matchless. It's kind of punny. There's a list. I'll leave a list of all the amps down in the description box below so you can check them out. But we're going to go ahead and press matchstick. So we have your first effects on the timeline here. So you got your drives, your bass, and your cuts. Now, a lot of these amps try to mimic the same controls that you're going to have on the normal effects or the normal amp. So drive, all you do is twist there. Bass, twist there, cut there. And if you want more parameters or see if there's more parameters, you're going to hit page right. You can see there's the treble, the presence, the channel volume. Press it again. You have the master volume, the sag, the hum, ripple, bias, bias X, Mic placement, now we're getting into the cabinet. So mic, right, you can tell I have a 57 dynamic mic, Shure SM57, where I want a 421, 7 dynamic. Let's go with the 57. You have your position, and you can have your distance from the cabinet. Go here, angle of the microphone, and the level. For now, I'm going to leave it all plain and simple for example purposes. So now that we have our amp and we have our cabinet, this thing is ready to go. But this is an amp modeler. We have tons of effects, tons of toys to play with. So let's go ahead and do the same thing, but let's add some delay. Mono, stereo, and you can play around with lots of different effects that they have in the unit. Let's use heliosphere. That sounds fun. And then add some reverb. Hall reverb. And then to make things fun, a Minotaur, which you can probably guess what that is, distortion. And that is our first preset. Now, like I mentioned earlier, before you do anything, make sure you hit save to make sure all your saves and all of your edits are saved so your preset doesn't go anywhere. So you can go hit boom into snapshot mode, preset mode, and you still have it there. Now you might be thinking, wait a second, where is my effects? How come they're not there? Well, you have to set them. So when you build a preset like this on the unit itself, you have to build your effects and assign them. So what you want to do is go back to that menu, like we had, press left and right page buttons, bypass assignment, and then let's switch using this wheel, the centaur. So right now it's on switch, nothing. Let's go switch 1. And I like to use these more for my time-based effects and these more for my like distortions. I don't know why, I just do, but let's turn this to switch number 4 and then hit OK. Go over to the amp. You can turn on the amp and not. I personally don't. But that is things that you can mess around with. Let's go to delay. Let's go to switch number 2. And the reverb, switch number 3. Cool. So go ahead, hit save. And now we can go into our stop box mode and see that we can turn on and off the different effects. Now, one of the great things about the HX Stomp XL is that it has 8 foot switches compared to the HX Stomp, which only has 3. Now, if you have the HX Stomp XL, you probably don't need an external foot switch, though it could be useful, especially with controlling scenes and different snapshots. But if you have the HX Stomp with the 3 buttons, I highly recommend getting an external foot switch. And I have a video on my channel that talks about what foot switch is great for and how to set it up easily to make sure that your HX Stomp can talk and communicate properly. So go check that out if you are interested. Now, there are other cool things that the HX Stomp can do, like assigning multiple effects to one single button. Now, say I want to turn on a boost, a distortion, and a delay and reverb for like a solo boost with hitting one switch so I don't have to hit 6 different buttons. How do I do that? Well, it's easy. You assign one of these foot switches. And the best way to do that is by hopping into the computer. There's a program called HX Edit, and it makes what we just went over 10 times easier by being able to utilize your computer and literally point and click the mouse. So let's hop in the computer and talk a little bit more about the cool things that HX Edit can do. All right, so here we are in the HX Edit, and you can tell that we're synced up here because I'm going to turn off the distortion, and you're going to see it go on and off on the pedal. And then let me go over to the pedal view. press it on and off there too. The first really cool thing here about the HX edit, which is a lot easier, is you can come up here to the preset name and you can retitle it. Let's say HX Stomp Demo. And as you can tell right there on the pedal, it's already switched as well. Always want to save, whether it's on the pedal or on the HX edit. As you can tell, this is a lot easier. You have your timeline here, you have your signal chain here. They have all the cool little avatars right here on the left. So if I want to do like Princess, which is like a US Princeton, right? Because it's punny like that. And then you go back to the match list and you have all the different parameters right here. You no longer have to go in and out of menus. It's just all right there. It's intuitive and you just drag and drop. Now what the cool thing is you can come over here to the cabinet. You got a 2x12 here. You can do multiple cabinets. It takes up more DSP, and you can only do that, I believe, if you do an amp and then a cab separately. But we have a combo here. So we got the 2x12 matchless here, and then the really cool thing here is the mic placement. You can grab this SM57 and you can drag it around in this kind of box area on the right hand side of the speaker, and you know, you get there right on the edge of the cone, bring it back a little bit, and then, you know, let's say we wanted to do a 121 ribbon mic, and you can tell it changed the avatar of the microphone right there. So that's really cool thing you can do in the HX edit. Now the other cool thing that you could do in the HX edit is if you go here to say your distortion, go to anything really. You can see obviously your controls here, but if you go to the bypass controller assignment here, and if you look on the pedal itself, you're like, why is it pink? Well, you can change it to whatever you want it to be. By default, it's going to be on auto color. So distortions, that kind of stuff is going to be, overdrives is going to be orange, this light orange by default. But, you know, if you want to make it cool and make it unique and stand out on YouTube videos, you can make it pink, and we're going to say loudness, because why not? Also, when you're dialing in a tone, what I find to be super helpful is if you go to like the very first thing in your signal chain and you put a looper. I like to do like a single switch looper. It makes it a little bit easier. You stomp on the looper, you do a little loop of what you're trying to dial in the amp tones, and then you have that loop in play, and you can dial it as that plays. So you don't have to worry about playing it, dialing in, playing it some more. It just is almost essentially like a live dialing in of tone. Really cool tip right there for you. Now let's get into the solo button, which I find to be the most critical and most useful thing of the HX Stomp. So let's go to scene 1. We're here in scene 1. I've already called it rhythm, but you can go ahead and rename it. Let's call it crunchy time. I don't have enough space for crunchy time, but let's do crunchy time, and crunchy time is going to be green. Because why not? And with crunchy time being green, we want to make sure everything's off, except for the amp. Crunchy time green is off. Now let's go to solo. We've already named it solo because I've done this once. Just refreshing myself before I teach it. So let's go blister lead, because I cannot fit up enough. And we're going to make it red. And we're going to turn on that. We're going to turn on that. And we're going to turn on that. All right, so now that we have our scene 1 and scene 2 set up for lead and rhythm, let's go to the pedal and set it up to be on foot switch number 5. So first thing you want to do is going to hit page left and page right at the same time, and then hit command center. What you want to do is take this top knob and go to whatever switch you want. Foot switch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just got rid of that. 7 and 8 are up there. I would recommend not doing that one. So I'm going to do foot switch number 5. And where it says command, it has none. I'm going to go over until I see snapshot. So it says snapshot, press release behavior, press and hold I'm going to do press and release. And then when I press it, I want it to go to not next, not previous. It's not snap 1, but snap number 2. Go ahead and hit save. So then when we're back on our home, we have delay, a reverb, our clone, and then we can see blister. Now, whatever our name, whatever we name it, it's going to show up there. And the color, remember, we made it red. So we're going to head to hit blister lead. And you can tell before we hit it, scene number 1 up there in the corner, hit blister lead. And now we have the delay, the reverb, and the clone on. And it says scene 2. And you can also see it over here too. You have everything back on. Now, before you go back and hit snapshot up, you have to do some more settings, because if you hit just snapshot up, it goes to 3, it goes to 4, and then you're back at 1, which is fine if you want to do like an intro, verse, chorus, lead kind of thing. But if you're only wanting to make it a solo boost, go back and hit page left and page right while you're on snapshot number 2. Go back to command center, snapshot, press release. Where it says press, go ahead, and I like to make it snap 1 for snapshot 1. So go ahead and hit save, save. So we're in snapshot 2, and now it says crunchy time. So we're back to our blistering, crunchy leads and blistering rhythm. I got that backwards. The crunchy rhythm and blistering leads. That is the solo button. So green, means go back to kind of safe rhythm. Red means fire lead tones. And I think that is the most important thing that you can do on the HX Edit, especially if you're playing live and you're like, I need a solo boost so I don't have to do a little tap dance. Just one and done button, and you are off to the solo races. Now, the HX Stomp completely changed my life so much that I had the perfect tone right now. But the perfect tone doesn't necessarily mean it feels great. And if you want to learn how to make your HX Stomp and HX Stomp XL feel like a real tube amp, check this video out, and I'll see you over there. And until then, let the music play.